Alrighty. So I would like to thank you for joining my podcast. I'm excited to have you on. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and I'm hoping to see the show soon.
Awesome.
So for the first part, can you please explain a little bit about yourself for those who don't know who you are?
Yeah, my name is Joel Meyers. I currently play Albus Potter in the Broadway production of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. For those who haven't seen the show, Albus is the son of Harry Potter. And so the show follows the story of me and my dad and my best friend Scorpius Malfoy.
Alrighty, and that actually answers the second question. How does Harry Potter connect to, Cursed Child connect to the franchise of Harry Potter?
Yeah, so Cursed Child is there's seven Harry Potter books. Spoiler alert. Cursed Child is in many ways kind of the eighth story of the franchise. So it takes place 19 years after, spoiler alert, the Battle of Hogwarts at the end of the seventh book. If you haven't read it, I won't say anymore. And
If
it's
you do want to say, if you want any spoilers, I can bleep them out, so it's up to you.
it's up to you. It's up to I don't know
I
what
don't
your
mind. I've had a couple of spoilers on the show. I just bleep them out, so it's up
right.
to you.
Yeah, yeah. The I mean, so the show follows Albus is Harry's second son, and Albus is goes to Hogwarts when he's 11, of course, and kind of is learning how to live in the wizarding world in the footsteps of his father, who's very famous, of course, being Harry Potter. Um, and he strikes up a friendship with Scorpius Malfoy, who's the son of Draco Malfoy, who is Harry's nemesis from the books. And the story is about the two of them kind of living in their father's shadows.
That's awesome. And so, playing Albus, what has Albus taught you, and any life lessons?
Yeah, Albus is a guy who Albus really leads with his heart. He's always trying, like his dad, he wants to do the right thing all the time. And also, like his dad, it's not always clear what the right thing is. And there's a lot of growing up that Albus does in the course of the show. He makes a lot of turns, makes a lot of mistakes. It's a bit of a time travel show for those who haven't seen it. And so we go back in time and we visit some particular moments in the Harry Potter story that then get turned on their head and certain things happen. And Albus is again, he's always kind of got his heart in the right place, but the things he chooses to do are not always the most helpful or the best. Um, so yeah.
So, it being Harry Potter, how do, how does it feel seeing all these effects play out on stage? Because in the movies, there's all these effects, and in the play, there's all these crazy effects. How is it seeing them and being a part of them on stage?
It's crazy. I mean, it's different from the movies, obviously, because everything is happening live. So in the movies, they have the magic of CGI, which helps a lot. On stage, it's theater magic, everything's happening live before you. And so that's part of what's so fun about this show is that you kind of come and be like, how did they do that? How did they do that? And a lot of the effects that we have on the stage, a lot of the magic looks just as real from 5 feet away as it does from 100 feet away in the house. So it's really cool to be immersed in that world every night and sort of be a part of that and feel like you're a wizard.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
so, Harry Potter, it was originally two parts, 2 days.
Mhm.
What is different from the two-part show to now?
Yeah, it's so the two-part show was two about 2.5 hour shows. This is one 3.5 hour show. So it is a shorter story, but it is a longer show independently. And we fit all of it into one. So Act One is roughly what was Part One before, and Act Two is roughly what was Part Two. A lot of it has been streamlined. A lot of the scenes are condensed, and certain aspects of the show have been cut out. That version of the show still lives in London, so it will always be in London, as far as I know. And the rest of the around the world, I think, is all the one-parter. And then soon there will be the tour version, which is even more abridged from the Broadway version. And yeah, it's you're not missing any major story in either way. It's more just there's a little more padding around the edges in the two-part version is the best way to put it.
That's
The one part version flies. We start and we do not stop until the end because we have to get through it.
yeah. And so, how long have you been with Harry Potter and the Cursed Child?
I joined in last November, so I've been with the show about 14 months.
That's awesome. And so, playing Albus, what is your favorite line or lines throughout the show?
Oh man, there's so many of them. My favorite line in the show, it changes by the night. I've been doing it. We do it so much that it's hard to pick. People ask us a lot, like, what is our favorite scene? And it's hard to pick because you do it so much and it changes as you go. One of my favorite lines I hear in the show is one of McGonagall's lines, which is, uh, like, do not mistake the painting for the person. I think is a very wise line. I won't say what that means, but that's probably my favorite line in the show. There's a couple other good ones in there that people like, but I'll leave that to the crowd to decide.
And so, with you being with the show for 14 months, how did you prepare for the role of Albus? Because I know this is your Broadway debut. So how did you prepare for one your Broadway debut and being Albus Potter, such a well-known character?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the we so logistically we had 6 weeks of rehearsal before we got put in the show. We obviously the show was running when I joined it. Eric Peterson, who plays Scorpius, and I came in together with a cohort of people. And we were the year four cast, the fourth kind of iteration of the cast on Broadway. Now we're in year five. Um, and so we had 6 weeks of rehearsal in a studio, so some in the studio, some in the theater, because this is such a special technical show that there are certain things you can only do in the Lyric Theater on Broadway. So we kind of bounce between that. But in terms of it's not dissimilar from any other show. We rehearse, we do scene work, we talk about the scenes, we talk about the characters. One of the a show like this is interesting because obviously a lot of people are coming from a lifetime of being a Harry Potter fan. So people know Harry, people know Hermione, Ron, Draco, all these characters are very beloved. For us, the two of us, it's actually, kind of a gift that Albus and Scorpius, you don't know much about them from the books. They both show up kind of right at the very end in the epilogue of Deathly Hallows. And so there's a little bit about Albus, even less. I think you see the back of Scorpius's head briefly. He doesn't even have a line. And so, the nice thing is you kind of get to come in and find that character yourself in the play. And so that was a lot of just and the our creative team is super great about letting us kind of find our own versions of it too. Like the version of Albus and Scorpius that we play isn't exactly the same as that any other pair has played. Um, so it's a lot of just finding yourself in the role. Um, and it being a Broadway debut and everything is just, you kind of got to put your head down and treat it like it isn't, at the end of the day, again, you got to kind of treat it like any other thing, and you kind of forget after a while that you're on Broadway, and it's sort of I don't think you ever get used to that idea of it. Like to this day, it still feels to us like, oh, we're doing our little school play here, and down the street is Wicked, and down the street is Hamilton, and isn't that cool that we're so close to like the real, I'm sure that's how everyone feels doing it.
So with it being about a debut, what was the audition process like for Harry Potter?
Yeah, so I joined the show in November. Backtracking out, we started rehearsing at the end of September, 6 weeks before, and I started auditioning, I think, late June of that summer before. And I think I went through 6 rounds total. Some people went through more, it depended on exactly what track you were on. I think I had 6 rounds. There were the first couple rounds. I was just an open call that I submitted for online through Actors Access. And then I did a self tape of a scene, and then I got called in for a movement call because there's a lot of movement, and they don't call it a dance call if you're not a trained dancer, which I am not. It feels like a dance call. Um, so it's take your pick. And that's sort of they get you in a group of people, and you're going through, and they're sort of teaching you these either movement sequences or you're playing movement games just to kind of see how you work in a group. Obviously, a lot of this show rests on the ensemble, and the ensemble working together is so much of it is why that's so necessary. After that, there was a round of reading where you come in, read a scene with the director, and then beyond that, and then I think there was another reading and a movement day, and then there was a special test for some of the effects, and then there was a final round with the we had the international associate in and whatnot, and then I was cast in August is when
And did you get immediately casted as Albus, or did you join as an ensemble?
I was cast as Albus. Yeah,
Cast as Albus, that's awesome.
yeah.
And then, obviously, you were probably a big Harry Potter fan when you were a child. But if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
Oh man, I mean, I think it's chill out, is kind of always the advice. I like anyone, I very much, it's hard when you're especially in this industry with that is so uncertain, and it's a lot of it unfortunately has to do with kind of luck of being in the right person in the right place at the right time. Um, it's luck meets preparation. You got to be ready for it when the opportunity comes, and so that's kind of the advice I would give to myself looking back and saying, oh, like even if it didn't feel like it at the time, like you were doing the right thing and just doing finding opportunities to do theater. And I was always either doing a show in school or a show it's a summer program or something like that. It's kind of whenever I could, which at the time kind of feels like, oh, I'm doing children's theater, but like that is preparation, that is learning how to do it. And it can feel very much like I'm not an actor, I'm not acting until I'm on Broadway. That's not true at all. Like you are always learning more and just by doing it. And yeah, just be do whatever you can to be ready, and also that opportunities will come and go, and some things will not go your. You know I've not gotten many more roles than I have, so which is true for anyone, and it can feel hard in the moment, especially when you're young and especially when you're first starting out of like, oh, it's rejection. What am I doing wrong? When it's usually not that you're even doing anything wrong. It's usually just that like the people in the room had an idea of what the character looks like, and someone else just like happened to tick the boxes more than you did. You know what I mean? It's hard to tell yourself that, but that's true. And I'm still telling myself that today, and I still don't always believe myself when I say that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's hard. Yeah.
And, and so a similar question. What advice would you give to kids who want to be actors?
Yeah, I mean, I number one advice I think would be that of like whatever you do, find ways to do it. Not only because, find any opportunity to be in a play, in a musical, whatever it is. Um, Not only because that's how you get better at doing it, that's how you learned it, but also because that's how you learn whether it's actually what you want to do. It's the truth is it's not the life for everyone. There's a lot of people who I have lots of friends who grew up doing theater, are fantastic actors, decided that wasn't what they wanted to do professionally, and that's totally okay. And it's still like they still love the theater, they still love going, they still love doing it. There's lots of community theater, lots of regional theater. You can be involved in the theater without being on Broadway necessarily. You know what I mean? Like there's so many ways for it to be a meaningful part of your life. And so just by doing it when you're young, especially because that's when it's a lot easier to kind of break into it when you're young and you're in school, do the school play, do the school musical, see if you like it, see if it's what you want to do. And if you go through it and you're like, you know what? That's not what I want to do. That's totally fine. Like you don't have to choose your fate at, 10 years old. Even though, it can feel like that. And I remember feeling like, oh, I gotta decide now. And but you don't. Like I'm an actor now. Who knows in 10 years what I'll be? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's hard advice to take, but it's good advice to hear, I think. So that's what I would tell anyone. And have fun, like it's theater, it's silly. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, and I feel like with rehearsals, it kind of depends on like theater's harder because it also depends on the people you're working with. If you're not working with the right people, it can make it seem like it's not the right job, even though it may be the right job. So
Yeah.
like it's also important to like be a good actor in the sense of being like a good character, not just being a good actor.
Yeah, I mean, every show, every play, every whatever you're doing, it's all a matter of teamwork, right? And so you're going to have some teams that are better than others, and that's going to define a lot of the experience for it. And on the one hand, I would say don't give up after one. If it is something that you love, like don't necessarily give up just because one show was like not the best thing you ever did. I've been there plenty of times. On the other hand, you don't your job as an actor too is just to, remember that you are a team player and you got to bring it's not always going to pan out exactly as it pans out in your head, and sometimes you have to kind of sacrifice things that you're like, "Oh, I wish I would do this scene this way." But that's just not what's going to work for the team you have at hand. And so it's a lot of trade-off of kind of your own vision for it and everyone else's vision for it and what how can we find our collective vision for it out of all of those different ideas. And that's a lot of, I think, the learning curve of just doing theater is learning how to balance those conversations in a rehearsal room.
Yeah, that's great. And so, as being an actor, what have been some of your favorite roles that you've played?
Well, I mean, Albus is a good one. It's certainly up there, Broadway debut. Harry Potter, what could be better? Other ones I played, I'll go through like when I was in high school. I played the Cat in the Hat in Seussical. That was a fun one. I played Seymour in Little Shop. Um, when I was in college, I did George in Godspell, which is also a fun one. I also in on the Shakespeare side of things, I've done Macbeth. I've done Bottom in Midsummer is a super fun one. That's where you kind of get to make fun of yourself as an actor, which is always fun. Um, yeah, those are probably up on my. I've done some other like indie film stuff which I've enjoyed doing, but that's sort of more original. You wouldn't know those characters off the top of your head, obviously. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the real answer is it's usually whatever I'm working on at the moment, because you kind of have to fall in love with whatever it is to do it. Um, and so I don't have. That's why I'm sort of struggling to find a single favorite one, is because it does change over time and it changes. I think the characters you play and the way you play them reflects has to reflect a lot of who you are at that stage in your life. And so I feel like whatever character I'm playing is kind of by default the character that I'm usually sort of find myself in the most, because that's what you have. That's what acting is. Versus in 10 years, I'll be like, I'm not Albus. Well, that's because I'll be 35, like, um, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
it does in my head.
And then, with this being Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, what is your favorite Harry Potter book and why?
I'm a big Deathly Hallows fan. I really am. I mean, in part because that's the book that I remember, like, that I really have a strong memory of it coming out. What year did that come out? Yeah, I gotta Google this.
Also,
Uh,
it's stuck in your head throughout the whole performance tonight. What year did this book come
yeah, well, exactly. 2007, so I would have been 9. So, um, I remember that coming out, and I remember that sort of, the event of it coming out. And it was right around, I think, also when like Order of the Phoenix, the movie came out, and that was like hardcore Harry Potter phase. I also just I like why do I like that book? I like seeing the three of them out of. I love the Hogwarts of it all, and like that's the first 6 books. I love that, but I also kind of love seeing the three of them like out in the wizarding world and how it kind of expands the world in that sense.
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like it's kind of hard to choose because all of them have their own like interesting points. But I think for me, it has to be Chamber of Secrets because of the mystery. So
Chambers, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, before Deathly Hallows when I was younger, I liked Chamber of Secrets because the snake.
Yeah.
Um, simply simple man of simple pleasures. They're all great. I mean, who are we kidding, you know?
And so with the national tour launching,
Hmm.
uh, do you think you're gonna try to make a stop to see it, or is there any chance you'll be in it?
I will not be in it. I'm on Broadway at least through next November. I will not be in it. I mean, I certainly won't see it before I leave the Broadway production of Grace Child because I have to be doing this one. I don't know. I don't know if at one day perhaps I think probably when I finish it, I will have been doing the show so long, I will need a bit of a
A little break.
step away from it. You know what I mean? But I could see myself if it's still going in like 10 years, dropping by and being like, oh yeah, I remember that. I'm sure it will be great. I'm excited to see how they do it because obviously it'll be a slightly different show than the Broadway because you have to be able to tour it. And so I'm very curious, just knowing so much about how the Broadway version of it is done, how they do the tour. So I'm excited to hear as they're putting it up, kind of what they're doing. But I am also glad to be doing the Broadway version where I don't have to, be on the road for a year.
Every few days, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like it's I'm super excited for whoever has that opportunity in the cast, but I at this stage of my life, I am also happy to be in one place.
And so that wraps up the question portion. So I have some Harry Potter Cursed Child themed trivia for you.
Oh, okay. Oh
And
boy.
and this came off the Harry Potter website.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I'm about to be exposed. Here we go.
In their second year at Hogwarts, who was announced as the new chaser for Gryffindor's Quidditch team?
When Harry was there,
I'm assuming it just says in their second year. I'm assuming when Harry was there.
new chaser. Well, it would probably be there's Alicia, right, is one of them, and there's Katie. I can't remember the other one. Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's a deep dive. That might be deeper than I know. I know at one point, I know eventually Ginny becomes a chaser, but I don't think it's in her first year.
And so the answer is Rose Grey Weasley.
Oh, okay. So that would be we're talking cursed child. We're talking cursed child era.
Basically,
Okay,
yeah.
because Rose is the daughter of Hermione and Ron. Okay, so I gotta read. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that Rose played Quidditch. Interesting. That changes everything.
Who is Pandrew's mother?
Padma Patil.
What does Harry give Albus as a going to Hogwarts gift?
A blanket.
Yes, his baby blanket.
Baby blanket, yes. Given to him by his mother. The only thing he had from her.
In the Cursed Child, after both Harry and Draco cast Expelliarmus on each other, what spell does Harry use next against Draco in the duel?
Uh, is it Tarantalegra?
Yes.
Okay. I watch it every night, and so you had me worried there for a second. I was like, I should know this, man. That's one of the coolest sequences in the show, I think.
And so the wands, is it something that with the wands do magic, like the wands, or is it something offstage that does?
That I'm not allowed to say. It's all magic. That's all I can say.
When Albus and Scorpius decide to go on an adventure instead of attending school, they need to jump off the Hogwarts Express. Who tries to stop them?
Probably witch.
Yes. Alrighty, and so that wraps up the interview. I'm gonna after I end the recording, I'm gonna talk to you for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is currently playing at the Lyric Theater, and you have shows every day,
We Tuesday
Monday.
through Sunday. Each
Yeah.
we do one Tuesday, two Wednesday, one Thursday, one Friday, two Saturday, and a Sunday matinee on
Is
your
it hard
average.
doing two shows a day since it's a 3 hour show?
It's a marathon. It's a marathon. We get through it. We have a wonderful company of wonderful people, and we all keep each other entertained. But it's a long day, but it's a lot of magic. It's a lot of fun, and the audiences bring a lot of energy, so they get us through it.
Do you get breaks in between the shows? Albus on stage the whole time?
Albus is on stage. the show kind of jumps back and forth between the kids and the adults. So between me and Scorpius and Harry, Ron, Hermione. So there, but usually if I'm off stage, I'm probably doing a quick change. There is a section of the show where I get a little bit of a break, and I won't say why because spoilers. But it's a pretty consistent workout for Albus and Scorpius. But we have a break in between the shows. A couple about an hour and a half.
That's awesome. And so that wraps up the interview. I'm gonna end the recording, and then I'll talk to you for a second. So I'd like to thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And yeah.